a small team of makers escaped from a maximum security psychiatric facility so they could do things their way. Now, these makers have created a podcast to help you do things your way. This is that podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Make Your Own Way podcast. I'm Alan Scannell from Wood Tourism by Alan Scannell, and my co-hosts are Johnny Allen from Bespoke Bloke Designs and Nate Wiltshire from Simply Our Nate. And this week, Johnny's brought a little guest along. Johnny, would you like to introduce him?
Yeah, since we started the podcast, a friend of mine was messaging me all the time. He wanted to come on, and with Brothers Maker on last week, and I eventually just said, look, okay, I'll let you on. We'll let you meet people. So, special guest, would you like to say hello and tell people who you are?
Yeah, my name is Jimmy DeResta, and I'm in New York at the moment. So, guys, thanks for having me on. Thanks for finally fulfilling my urgent request to get on and hang out with you guys and
That's okay.
follow up on the friendships we started in Maker Central.
Maker Central.
Yeah.
I still haven't washed my arm. It's been 8 months?
I don't know if you guys follow along on the Facebook group. There's a couple now because they started splintering off. There was infighting, and then I like to make stuff. Then Bob started his actual official I like to make stuff, and then we like to make stuff, and then they like to make stuff, and then he liked to make stuff. So there's all these groups, and my name shows up in all of them, and I participate. But somebody last night posted a video or a still frame from Pinterest of a full-on tattooed image of my face.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Heavily black
Really?
tattoo. Looks like one of the Universal Monster tattoos. It's like so heavily black inked. It looks great. I mean,
That's
my friend who happens to be Australian photographed me about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's one of the pictures she took of me.
Wow.
So I was honored. So you got work to do there, bro.
Well, there are a few. There are actually a few people that've got DeResta tattoos.
Yep. Sterling's got one, and Jamie Page.
Yeah, JP's got one. Yeah.
Fucking nut job.
But he's also got Berkey's face on him, so
Yeah.
What does it tell
Go
you?
back to what I just said. That fucking nut job.
Cool.
Well, thanks,
cool.
guys.
So, this week we're going to ask a couple of our own questions before we go into our normal listener questions. So, I think Nate, you have a question ready there for Jimmy, don't you?
I've got one. Yeah, I have. So, Jimmy, my question is, it's a serious one, so, bear with. What is the most useful thing that you've done to bring a process in-house? Is it tooling, printing? Personally, I think, your printing stuff is amazing, and, bringing that sort of thing in-house just gives you so many opportunities. So something like that, I don't know. What do you think?
What has been like the most useful thing that I've learned? I guess the most useful thing that I brought to do in my own space in the last few years.
Yeah, sure.
Well, honestly, printing is a great example. Printing is something I never thought I'd do. It's not something I was ever interested in as a kid. I actually, until the moment my buddy said to me, "Hey, do you ever see any antique printing presses in upstate New York on your travels, on your daily travels?" One of my buddies in New York. I said, "I think there's a printing press outside this antique shop." And that was about 6 months before I did my very first print press video where I rescued that rusty one and me and Taylor put it on the truck. I look like a little kid in it. It's from like 6 or 7 years ago. And prior to that, I never in my life even thought about how things got printed. It never occurred to me. I just was like, that's a different world that I have nothing to do with. Yeah. And then when I started to become intrigued with the mechanical action and the gizmosity, to quote my buddy Eric from Hand Tool Rescue, the gizmosity of those machines, I fell in love, literally fell in love with them, with that machine that I got and the 8 more that I have now.
It's like a gateway drug.
It is. And I think that's
what? Another funny thing that I never, if you going back now, so I think I did 2 videos, the very first 2 print videos I ever did in sequential order. The one where I put it on my truck, the second one where I actually get it working, and then the third one where I print on it. I print orange things that say, if it looks straight, it is straight. Martin from Wintergarten, he Instagrammed me. Now this is going back like 3 or 4 years ago. He Instagrammed me and said, I want one of those and I'm going to pay you for it. I was like, I'll just send you one. And he goes, no, I'm sending you money, because we had talked about something else, and he PayPal'd me $200. So before I even put the video out, because he was watching my Instagram. So the very first poster that I ever sold was to Martin, who makes the big crazy marble machine. And so he's my very first print customer. He's got
Cool.
I just think it's interesting to see you put stuff like that out and then watch the maker community then become interested in printing, and everyone's doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I lifted up like this curtain of like, I hate to overuse the word. I lifted up this curtain of gizmosity of like, look at how fucking incredible like the American, I meant to say the human ingenuity was. And I didn't mean to say American. Now I sound like a biased shithead. But what I meant to say was the human ingenuity, and what I love about even discovering machines like Habu just put one out that was made in Europe, his video on his machine. And then other machines that I see that guys, on your side of the world send me pictures of, and the ones that I find in fields around the United States and New York, and the pictures people send me, it just keeps, it sucks me in further and further. And I'm like, oh my God, I see how the mechanism works now. Oh my God. And so that just goes into the toolbox, that goes into the mechanism toolbox that regurgitates itself one way or another.
What I really like is seeing how smaller makers who can't afford big presses or haven't got the space or the workshop's too dusty or whatever, they're finding other ways to do it, and it just opens up this massive box. Yeah. And people discover it. It's great.
What's our friend's name? I'm drawing a blank. I made this. He started printing too. I'm gonna draw. I'll come up with it before the end of the show. He's been doing some great stuff. He's a European. He's been doing some great stuff, printing stuff, and just improvising in his workshop, CNCing, bandsawing letters, and making print cards. So yeah, it's great. Even like Dave Picciuto, he doesn't have a printing press, and he improvised some printing stuff too. And it's fantastic. I mean, I'm happy to start a great trend that we could all derive fruit from one way or another.
Yeah. Cool.
What's funny? I go and I look at printing videos that are on YouTube that have nothing to do with the maker community, and it's like you could either be a printer, but you can't be a printer and a filmmaker, because like there's a disconnect. Films are like made on like a potato, and they're made like they're 15 seconds long, and that's how long the whole video is. It's like Chandler and Price print press, and it shows the thing like from a really shitty angle for like a minute, and then the video ends. But a fine press, a young man named Matt in Florida makes a great channel of printing press. He's in the maker community, so he does a great job. So look at A Fine Press. That's his channel and Instagram.
Cool. Check it out. Johnny, do you want to ask next?
Yeah. A few years back, you did a podcast. Now I was trying to remember where I heard it, because I can't remember, because I've seen you and listened to you on so many different podcasts. But when you were describing what you do and your processes, the big thing that struck out with me, because I like to kind of do things similar, is you kind of let the process evolve as you're doing something. It changes, So.
You mean like just letting the process become, letting the innovation develop as I do the process?
Exactly.
Yeah. Was there a question?
Do you still operate like that, or do you?
That's the only way I operate.
Okay.
Honestly, because I see April and a couple of other people online do full-on 3D renderings.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't get stuck there, because to me I love the I mean, I'm sure they love their way they do it, but for me, the process for me is the discovery while I'm working. And because I have so much experience experimenting and brainstorming and just improvising what I build, I totally trust my own personal process now. I don't get too hung up. For instance, if you guys follow my Instagram, you saw yesterday I dropped that big giant cube off the table in slow motion, smashed it around. That's going to be an anvil stand. for a new anvil that I just got. This anvil will live in my workshop, and I sometimes I want it right next to me, sometimes I want to put it away. So it occurred to me to make a roving anvil stand with retractable wheels, and that is the basis for the mechanism. I drew the mechanism 50 different times. I made it in cardboard, and I'm still not 100% sure on exactly how it's going to work, but I will tell you this: in the last hour, I got the whole entire project really close, and I'm showing you guys drawings. So here's like mechanical drawings of like how the lever action is going to work. These are the very first sketches I did.
Decent.
So it's two sets of wheels that kind of pivot on each side of the machine on the base, and then you push a lever down, and then the wheels retract up or down. And then I kind of settled on this final design, which is similar to what I'm about to do.
Oh, cool.
So I have the wheels on, I have the lever, I got to make the linkage now, and then I'll be done. But all that really came to me in the process of working on it. I said this before, and I'll say it again. There are goals along the build. Like I know the thing has to have wheels on it. That's not disputable. So let me put the wheels on it.
Yeah.
I know there has to be a lever over here in space. Let me have that lever in space. I could add or cut away from the one that I put there temporarily, but let me just put that lever in space. And by doing that, by adding the wheels, putting the lever, knowing that I need this press bar, let me put that press bar in space and just see what answers it gives me. All the steps start to reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Because, our brain's overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed with the idea of like, oh, man, there's so many fucking connections to make. Oh, I can't forget how am I going to do that? I just do it one step at a time, and then let each step inspire the next step, or answer the questions to the next step. And then if I have to go backwards and do improve that step that's 4 steps behind me, I'll go. But now I have a better grasp on the whole concept.
What I thought was quite cool when you showed us that picture just then. The picture before it was the leather stack knife that you did right before you're working on the anvil stand. And that was literally as your stories have gone on Instagram. You've done your leather stack knife, and now you're on your anvil stand. I would really love to see that notebook, or your notebooks, because I think that would give a real good insight into your brain.
Here, the knife is right here. I just ate lunch with it. I'm using it every day now.
Yeah,
This video is done. I'll publish it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But again, that's inspiring because your letter stamp, you hit it twice. You're showing your mistakes.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
It's wide open. But you didn't. But I don't think you did fuck it up. I don't think that is.
No, I love it, but I was annoyed that I did it. I tried to, because my eyesight is bad and it's going. I mean, it's funny. You can see that's the knife before I actually made it, and it looks exactly similar.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
I don't always hit the mark. I'm always jumping around.
I remember actually you put up I think it was one of your ice picks, and you fucked up the stamp on it. And some guy commented on the post saying, "Oh, you're gonna sell that one cheaper or something like that." And the next 100 comments were like, "I'll give you double, I'll give you triple what it's worth." Looking for that one, just that one,
Yeah. Oh well, it's funny. I save all the fuck ups. We have a bin called the Friends and Family bin, and that is a bin of ice picks that have all been either misstamped or we sanded half the logo off. Sometimes if the logo is impressed shallow and we sand part of it off, we could sand it completely off and then re-hit it.
Yeah.
Because it's all done with a hammer now. But typically we save all because I'm always giving them away. If anybody shows up at the shop, you do a fan visit, I'll just give you an ice pick. I won't make you pay for it. And so I always have about 7 or 8 or 10 bin in the Friends and Family bin. Those are the ones I give away.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had a guest on last week, Brothers Make.
I know those guys. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, he did a drop in and got an ice pick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard him. I listened to you guys when you contacted. I listened to that, and yeah, it's so funny. I meet so many people, so many places, and I feel like everybody I meet, I've already met before, and I'll be like, "Hey, did we meet last year?" And they'll be like, "No, I met minutes ago." I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I remember those guys, and they're making a book right now. They're doing some book binding.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are great. Those guys are great. They really keep giving me some love back because of the book binding video, which is great.
Cool. Okay, my question then is, you've done the last 2 seasons of the Making It show. Is there another one this year being filmed as well?
Yeah, I just found out we
Uh,
didn't film it yet. It's been greenlit, and I asked them. I was like, guys, I need to make a plan because I'm going to Europe and I have a few things to do. Will I be needed? And they said, of course you will be needed, but I don't have a contract at the moment. You know, those can always go left or right, especially when you're dealing with like a real network. So I'm waiting for my agent to get back to me to tell me we're good to go. It's going to take a few more weeks, but I mean, I have a verbal commitment that I'm going to be involved, and we're going to possibly shoot sometime between May and June, maybe 2 weeks
cool.
of May and 2 weeks of June.
Do you
And I
think
don't.
that they'll ever put the show out over in Europe, or would that
Oh,
have to
you
be just
guys don't
picked
get
up
a
by
chance
a
to see it?
channel?
No.
No.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
Can you see it on
get on
Hulu?
over here. I don't know.
Don't know.
I'm not sure.
Actually.
Check out Hulu.com because Hulu, I guess they don't advertise it over there. Hulu is like NBC's like sister company, and any show
Okay.
that's on NBC and a couple of other like any other syndicated shows that are on a lot of channels will end
Mm,
up on Hulu. You can get like if you don't get
yeah.
Comedy Central, you could watch South Park on Hulu. So
Cool.
check Hulu, HULU.com.
Cool. It's a shame that they don't have it out over here
Yeah.
because I'm sure a lot of people would like to watch it.
Well, I think what they're gonna do, and I know that I talked to some various, like occasionally on the set while we're working, like you see a couple of the executives walking around with a couple of European speaking groups. I remember I think it was like a group of people from Czech Republic, and I said, "What's going on?" They're like, "Oh, they're thinking about doing the show in Czech speaking countries, and then
Oh,
the
right.
German speak. So they're gonna do it in Europe, or if they haven't already."
Mm.
But the cat's out of the bag. I've already auditioned for like 8 other versions of the show, that have like
All right.
Maker, and there's a show bouncing around called Assembly Required, and I auditioned for that, but nothing's set in stone at the moment. The only contract, the only verbal commitment I have is making it.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Well,
It's
best
fun.
of luck with it. I hope it goes well this
Yeah.
year. And I know it went well
Like,
for you last year, as you said on the
It's
podcast.
it's nice to be wanted and it's nice to be involved. I wish that they would utilize the gifts I've developed from this maker community. I wish they would let me give that away more on the show. When you guys get a chance to see the show, you'd be like, you got fucking Jimmy DiResta right there. I could do all this shit so easily. Why don't you just ask him for some tips and tricks?
Yeah.
I have great stuff caught on camera with the contestants. Like, oh, this would be a great way to do this. And the
Yeah.
contestants, they get people that are very amateur but good. They don't want people like me that's got 30 years of experience. They find people that are really good, very very heartfelt about and passionate about what they're doing, but their skills aren't 100%. They're still learning. They're also very young most of the time, and definitely
Yeah.
young in their hobby as a maker or whatever you want to call it. So there's so much teaching going on, and they capture it all, but they never put it in the edit. So that's where I get super frustrated. But that's TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can pick that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, we can move on to a few of our listener questions if you guys are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready, man.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, Made by Fergus asks, what maker skill do you wish you had? Should we put that to our guest there? Has he mastered every skill, Jimmy?
Well, it's funny. I think I talked about this on Making It, which will be published in online tomorrow. Blacksmithing obviously is something I've been really teaching myself. And Brett was my shop assistant for the last 3 years. He just moved on to go live with Jesse and the guys over in Joshua Tree. So Brett's out of the shop at the moment. But the biggest thing I credit Brett with is getting me involved in blacksmithing. Something I always wanted to do, but because he was so passionate about it, he sucked me into it as well. And so it's something I always like. If you asked me this question a couple of years ago, I would say blacksmithing, and I say it again now because I'm really just starting to scratch the surface of feeling accomplished in some of my endeavors. Like, for instance, this knife. Like, when you see this knife, I blacksmithed a couple of other knives, but they're kind of almost a little hokey, close to where I started as far as the material. Like you start with a piece of material and you only end up maybe 20% or 10% bigger or just slightly misshaped from where you started. This was a really good learning experience because I started with a piece that was, at least half the size of this, ended up with a nice stretched out blade, a tang, and then again more learning on the handle itself. So blacksmithing is definitely something I'm really happy that I'm having some wins in.
Yeah.
And what I said on my podcast the other day was you tinker so much in a typical in a given discipline, and then one day you challenge yourself and like all of a sudden you realize you know all the answers. It's almost like, I'm not a Star Wars nerd, but it's almost like, may the force be with you. It's like if you prepare, and then like all of a sudden you surprise yourself, you're like, holy shit, I know how to ride a bicycle. I've practiced all the aspects of how to ride a bicycle, what a bicycle is, and then you get on it and you're like, oh fuck, I know how to do this. Shit, I didn't even know I knew how to do this. I knew how to play with it, but I didn't know I knew how to do it. So that was kind of the win I had with this knife here. And I guess if I had to say, I just would like to get better at CNC machining. I'm good at CNC with the routering. CNC machining steel and aluminum is a whole different animal that, I've only scratched the surface there. I have a lot more learning to do there. I could fake it. I could make it look like I know what I'm doing because I could set up a file and cut it, but I don't show you the 5 broken bits and the fucking crashing into the vise. I typically just polish my edits up because then all of a sudden, the reason I don't show a lot of mistakes is because they're hard to describe without jumping in and going, okay, let's cut the action. Let me talk directly to the camera and tell you what would happen. So I just say, you know what, fuck the mistake. Somebody will make it. They'll figure it out. And so I just show the successes for the most part. So that's why I look like I know what I'm doing in machining, but I don't.
Fake it till you make it.
That's it. Yeah.
How about you, Johnny? Is there that new maker skill that you wish you'd had?
I just love glass blowing. I think it's fucking incredible.
Glass blowing is like it's like a bottomless pit. I see guys totally. Glass blowing and you never see them again.
Yeah, it's like wizardry. You know what I mean? Now I know you need a lot of tools. You need the furnaces and kilns and that kind of stuff, but the stuff that they can do with glass is just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you can do a lot on the bench though, with like an oxy torch or something like that. You can mess around, but you can't go full blown.
Yeah.
Have you done any glass blowing?
No, nothing.
No.
Oh yeah, I've done a glass blowing weekend class. It's the only thing I did, and I realized I thought it would be something that I'd be able to take away and do at home, but I realized it's extremely complicated. There's so many. And and the other thing too is, maybe this is just an American thing, but the guys that teach glass blowing are assholes. So you got it. Once you get past their fucking arrogance and their fucking I know more than you and I'm gonna find you at every fucking turn. Once you get over that, it's great.
Yeah, it's that age-old thing. Sorry. But it's that age-old thing, isn't it? Someone's wagging their finger at you, going, "No, boy, don't do it like that." There's a process that you've got to be an apprentice for 30 years, and then you can do it.
Yeah, maybe it was just me. I don't know.
See, you're very lucky in the States. Like, you get a lot of classes. We don't get that here. We don't get the opportunity to have weekend classes. You get the odd one. You might get one once a year in different places, but the opportunity isn't there, so it can be difficult to get in on something like that.
There's a in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, New York, there's a place called Urban Glass, and I went there for the weekend, and I had a great experience. I just was like, there was a few times where I felt like telling the teacher, I'm like, reel it in, dude. We're all just amateurs. We don't know what we're doing. Just talk to us like we're kindergarten students, instead of talking to us like, safety every 3 minutes. I'm like, enough already with the fucking safety. We're standing here with 2,000-degree ovens. Something's gonna happen.
You want to play. Yeah. I want the opportunity to be able to play with it. Don't tell me off.
Yeah. Right. So, but yeah, that's a couple.
Nate, how about you? Have you got any maker skill you wish you had?
Well, I'm just starting out. I've just bought a metal lathe, an old Myford ML4, which is probably made in the 1930s. So I'm just tweaking that up at the minute. And I've done like lathe work at uni and stuff, but that's completely different to this thing. This thing's got no dials or anything like that. And pretty much I've turned my first project, which was a wooden leather burnishing tool on my metal lathe, and
that's I have the problem same with when you have a lathe, you think to yourself, oh, I want to make something, and then you go, what the fuck, everything, not everything has a perfectly round cylinder. What the fuck am I gonna make? It's like, I could make a bearing, I could make a ball, and then you think to yourself, how am I gonna use it somewhere? But it has to be in the shop for all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, I need to make a knob for my microphone, and then you go and do it.
Everything's a dildo, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it. But I managed to make a few spinning tops and things like that. I've just had a play literally just this week. So, but they came out quite successfully. It's like Etch-a-Sketch. Do you remember Etch-a-Sketch? It was a right pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Is it possible to draw anything with it? I kind of liken this lathe to an Etch-a-Sketch. Like one knob goes one way, one goes the other way. Try and do a curve. Yeah.
If you guys get a chance, especially you, Nate, go take a look at my chess piece video where I made a bunch of chess pieces. They were all free-handed with the lathe.
Freehand, yeah. Was that on a wood turning lathe?
No, I did that on a machine lathe.
Oh, cool. Okay,
So
yeah.
it was Etch-a-Sketch the whole time doing the.
Yeah, Etch-a-Sketch it.
That's why.
Tune in, Tokyo.
Yeah, but it's fun though, and so that's mine. I mean, that's my current hobby, my play thing that's in the workshop, and I can't wait to get into it more. I've got tools coming every day. It's like Christmas at my place. It's amazing. Absolutely loving it. But yes, that's mine.
And for me, I'd be the exact same as Johnny. I'd love to do a bit of glass work, like glass blown. But even I wouldn't mind trying a bit of stained glass. I know that'd be a bit more achievable to do. Like, I wouldn't mind giving it a try. It's just something I've never done, and I think I might actually be able to do it. You know. Next question again is from Made by Fergus. What's your favourite animal? Nate?
Me.
Giraffe. And I'm going to give you a question back. What noise does it make?
Moo.
Oh, exactly, it's moo. Yes, Jimmy. Actually, I don't know that it's moo, but I've always imagined it mooed like a cow.
No,
I see giraffes as like nervous wrecks of the jungle. They seem like they're like tall and awkward, and they're always nervous. They're always like, that's how it's true.
They'll always stick their neck out for you, though.
Yeah. Just to get it cut off. You know what happens? You stick your neck out, it gets cut.
They'll kick you in the face. Damn it in the face. They're hard.
Don't cut my neck.
How about you, Jimmy? What's your favorite animal?
I gotta say my Yorkie. I've had 5 Yorkies in the last maybe 18 years. I've had 5 different Yorkies, and right now Chippy is he turns. Chippy I got for my 50th birthday. So I was born in April of 67, and Chippy was born in May of 17. So he goes with the year. So Chippy's gonna be 3 this year. So.
Nice.
I'm going to be 53. He's going to be 3. So yeah, I'm 50. Chippy.
You gotta love the fight in Yorkies. These tiny little dogs, but in their head they're clearly convinced that they're like a fucking lion.
Yeah,
they'll take anything on.
He's always fucking with Bear. You know, Bear's my big black lab who's probably 60 pounds, and Chippy's 6 pounds, and he's always jumping on him, and they have a great time together.
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You,
I also like Chihuahuas too. My sister's got a Chihuahua.
Sorry, yeah.
How about you, Johnny? What animal's your favorite?
It's got to be the dog. Any dog really. I love my dogs. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. My dog's a fucking idiot. I do love him.
My dog's Irish, so you know he's a plonker.
My dog's going mad because there's a vote on over here, and all the politicians are coming knocking on the door looking for the vote. And every time the doorbell rings, the dog's going crazy. My wife's after having to stick a note on the door because they're still knocking at this hour of the night.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's funny. In America, nobody knocks on doors anymore. If someone knocks on your door, you're gonna shoot and kill them because nobody knocks on your door ever, which is so weird. I mean, yeah, it's funny. Sebastian Maniscalco is a comedian here. He does a funny bit. It's a famous bit because he's done it for years about how when he was a kid, everybody's always popping over for a visit. Now, if somebody pops over to your house and rings your doorbell, you like do a belly crawl across to close the curtain.
It's true, though. It is true. Now, next one is from Kenneth Maker. What tool do you normally use to almost cut your fingers off, Johnny?
Lately it's been the grinder. The grinder's come close a couple of times, but that's my own fault. Well,
Ow.
Yeah.
What about you, Nate?
4-inch angle grinder every time, mate. Run it across my thumb
Yeah.
about 6 months ago, and I've got a lumpy thumbnail now. It's gross. Like I'm hoping for it to grow out, but it won't.
Yeah.
I sit there shaving this lump like down flat, and my missus is like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Just shaving my thumbnail. It's nasty."
Well, Jimmy, you're the only one that's actually cut their finger pretty much.
Yeah, I cut my pinky pretty much off
Yeah.
right there. You can see the scar line. It's like kind of if I was wearing a ring on my pinky, it would be right there. Of all the injuries that, the doctor said of all the injuries you could choose to cut your pinky on your non-dominant hand nearly off, he's like, and then we could just snip it off and say it's a done deal. He said you got really lucky, and it sucked. It really sucked, and I have nearly not nearly as much of the grip as I had. Like I used to be able to just grab like a sheet of MDF, for instance, which is about 80 or 90 pounds, like a 3/4 MDF or 19 millimeter MDF. I used to be able to grab it like that. Can't do it anymore. I mean, I can, but I have to prepare. Now I gotta I used to be able to just like grab it and pick it up like a biscuit, but I can't do that anymore. I just don't have that grip strength this way anymore. I have to make sure this hand is underneath it.
That was the bandsaw, wasn't it?
Table saw, but I've cut myself on the bandsaw quite a bit, mostly just fingertips, not like not through the bone. But
Have you got a saw stop now, Jimmy?
I do have a saw stop, and I probably pissed off quite a few people. I talked about playing with the saw stop, basically like having like a dangerous saw with a safety net. Now I can do all the crazy shit I always wanted to do and not have a conscience.
No, but you're damn right.
Yeah. So I do take some risks on the saw stop. Not something they want to hear or see.
Yeah.
I did a voiceover once, and I did this I did a bevel on a round stool. So I was rotating like a big disc into the saw with a bevel. The blade was at about 30 degrees. And I was like, this is really, on the voiceover, I said, this is really dangerous, but since I'm using a saw stop, it's okay. And they got it. I'm like, dude, I not want to encourage people to be fucking dangerous on the saw.
Do you think that saw stop will end up doing a lot more like bandsaw stops or like grinder stops?
I know. Well, now that they're with Festool, they must have like a lot of more innovation going on. But I know they were talking about doing a chop saw early on. I mean, I haven't talked to those guys in a long time, but when I was more in touch with them, he said the chop saw was something they were doing. But when you abruptly stop a chop saw and it's not connected to a 500-pound cabinet,
it's going to kick. Yeah.
They said that's something that they've been trying to figure out. And then a bandsaw seems like an easy way because you can just put brakes on any of those wheels. That seems like an easy stop. So I don't know. I mean, I always say that the dangerous bandsaw blades are the ones that are aggressive, like a resaw blade with like a 3-tooth per inch or a 4-tooth per inch. But a bandsaw blade, like a hacksaw bandsaw blade, when you're at 18 tooth per inch for like cutting metal, not saying it's not going to hurt you, but it won't hurt you severely the way. Because those big teeth, they're like shark teeth. They'll pull you in. They'll roll you into the blade. Those will just rub on you like a file. So
it'd be quite interesting to see how they handle the blades, because maybe like stopping the blade suddenly might snap the blade or something.
Perhaps, yeah.
I mean, there's so much to think about, but it'd be quite interesting to see what comes out of it, especially with Festool. I mean, that sounds really
bandsaw
awesome.
blades are still, I mean, obviously it's my favorite tool. Bandsaw blades are still very, I would hasten to say, archaic in the way that they're made, because it's still just a weld. I popped a new blade on my Dual tonight, working on this the parts for the anvil stand to cut some metal, and the weld's got a big lump in it. And it's a blade I spent, it was supposed to be about 25 US on eBay from a reputable company, but there's still that human part of making a bandsaw blade that doesn't seem to be involved in mostly like a table saw blade. It seems like it's all automated, so you could have it's more like a machined instrument as opposed to the bandsaw blade. There's always some human person grinding that little weld. Anyway.
Well, for me, it wasn't a tool that most recently nearly took a finger off. It was a train. I work for the railway here, and I was changing the brake caliper, and I had my hand in the wrong spot, and it was being jacked up, and it was very close. It just grabbed the top of my glove, but I was able to pull it out and get the guy to stop quick enough. But that was That was one of the hairier moments there lately, but yeah, no, it was fine.
A friend of mine works on the
Not a mark.
railroad. A buddy of mine works on the railroad. I lost touch with him because I knew him through a girlfriend, but he was moving a piece of rail, like, a 10-foot piece of rail, smashed like 4 fingers. It came down. Like, I think somebody else was doing one thing while somebody else was doing something else, and they weren't in sync, and somebody dropped something, caused it to hit his hand. It crushed like 4 fingertips off, piece of railroad track.
There's no coming back from that. Yeah, no coming back from that.
Yikes.
I know a guy I used to work with. He was changing brake blocks on one of the wagons, and it's a pin that goes in, and the block will just drop out. But he had his hand on the track, and he pulled out the pin, and the block just came boom down on his hand, and I think he broke about 3 fingers. But he was lucky he didn't lose them, though.
You guys follow 50/50 Forged on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what he did? I think he must have hit the. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know he got crushed while the machine was running. He was changing the dies, and the machine squished his finger off.
Oh yes, but if you see what he's doing now with like his t-shirts and stuff like that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, he's got a good trademark now.
I
He never wanted it, but
he's got his like finger and it's just crushed bone.
Yeah.
Way to bounce back, mate. It's fantastic work.
Yeah.
Now we have a bit of a shark attack. Shark Attack 1979. Jimmy attacks us every week with a load of questions, so he's one of our regulars.
Oh, good.
He says, "What's the most money you've spent on one tool?" Nate, I'm sure it's well, you didn't spend it. Your mum spent it on you. She bought you the lathe.
No, it's not the lathe. Out of all ridiculousness, is my freaking belt grinder, because like one of the most simple tools in the workshop. Like it's just a motor and a few bearings, and that thing cost me nearly $1,000. It's fucking stupid. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing tool. All being said, I've changed half the the electrical parts on it, but it's fantastic. But God, for something so simple, why do they command such a high price? I'll be fucked if I know.
If only somebody told you at the very beginning to build one instead.
Oh yeah. You fucking show off.
Did you build one, Tony? Did you build one?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, right.
There's not much to them. Like once you keep everything square, they're okay.
Yeah.
And it's just box iron. It's just
difficult.
60 mil and 50 mil box iron. That's it.
Yeah.
So.
The most I spent, I'm trying to remember. I mean, obviously people give me a lot of free tools, but I sell everybody. I'm like, you want free tools? Just start a YouTube channel, make 700 videos, get 5 million views a month, and that's easy. And it is, that's what I love about YouTube. There's like such a great democracy. Like out of nowhere, Bobby Duke came running from back to back, and now he's 3 million subscribers. He's unbelievable, and he's such a lovable guy. So I'm very fortunate to get free tools, but the most I spent on it was probably my ShopBot CNC machine that I bought in 2013. Before I commanded the ability to get free tools, I bought that for $7,500. I put it on a credit card, and I made my money back on it within months. Once I learned how to use it, and I got over the fear factor, it's changed my life.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. What you at?
I think the most I spent is on the lathe, and it was second hand, and it was 250 quid. Most of the stuff I have is second hand. You got to start small. I mean, I've got a family to look after, so they have to come first. Tools come second, But yeah, no, that's the most I spent.
I tell everybody this is you're gonna laugh at me because this is probably an American mentality. I say it's cheaper to buy something brand new than it is to buy it used. Because if you buy it brand new, you could put it on a credit card and pay it off a little bit at a time. You could finance it. It's easy to finance something brand new. You pay it off a little bit at a time. I just bought that dual bandsaw, and I've been hoping and waiting and hoping. There's a couple of bandsaw companies I've been kind of flirting with, and they're like, oh, well, we really love your channel. And I'm waiting for to get a new bandsaw from Grizzly or Dake or somebody. And I just said, fuck it. I just went and bought one for $2,800. That new dual bandsaw is $2,800. And new to me, it's from 1990. All the ones I've been finding online are about $4,000 to $5,000. So I feel like I got a good deal, and it's mine. And there's something to be said for not having to do a commercial for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fortunate to have the sponsors that I have. I just signed on with Ferd. It's Ferd's a European company. Ferd is the grinding disc, the abrasives company. So I'm working with them. I'm gonna continue to work with Lincoln. So I'm very fortunate to have these companies, support me, and I'm really grateful for that. But every once in a while, I get in bed with a new company, and they're like, "Well, what are we gonna get? Like, if we give you this tool, what are we gonna?" And then I'm just like, I hate having to sell them on it. Like, I wish they just come to the table with the understanding of how this game works. And that's kind of what I was dealing with one of these companies. And then I just said, you know what, let me just go buy one, and then I don't need to talk to them anymore.
Yeah. See, I suppose with you getting stuff, like, if I had the money and would say I needed something for $2,000, I have to go through this internal justification that I need to spend $2,000 on that item. So I'll need to work out in my head, I need it to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a company coming to you with something and they're going to say to you, listen, Jimmy, we got this. Here you go play with it. It takes out that justification that you need. Then you can just go and play with it.
But the other thing I could give me 5 minutes. I'll come up with the justification for anything, for spending money. I'll come up with it. It's completely rational. But I always say this: I don't buy fancy cars. I have one truck. That's it. I have two trucks, but they're used. They were basically free in the scheme of things because they were used and paid for right away. But I have my pickup truck, and I don't go do water sports. I don't ski. I don't have a boat. I have a Harley, but that's paid for years before YouTube came around. I never use it. I'm not a Harley guy. I don't want to get hurt on a motorcycle. That fear is kind of sunken in as I got older. When I was younger, I didn't give a shit. So I'm not extravagant. The one thing that really jazzes me and turns me on is buying new tools. And when I think of the bottom line, I only buy things I know I could make money with. I only buy things, if I can't make money with it, I have to at least justify it in the way that it's going to be a good video. So if I end up spending like $400 or $500 or $600 or under $1,000 for an antique machine that I know I could pull into my shop, break down, get a video out of it, then I'll say, you know what? Like, I've been on television shows where for a 20-minute show of, for instance, making it, they must spend $500,000. I have no idea, but I can do a 13-minute video, and buy, an antique printing press for a few $100s and have it shipped here, and that'll cost me a few $100s, and justify, still be under $1,000 and put out a video that'll get 500,000 views.
Yeah.
And, not only will that video get me 500,000 views, it'll get me eyeballs that will say, oh, you like this machine? I got one rotting away in my garage. You can come have it for free. So, everything has tentacles that is far reaching beyond what you could imagine. So, like, a perfect example is I just bought that antique Winchester rifle at a garage sale.
Yeah.
It's a rare rifle. I can't hardly find any others online. I put it up. The video is going to probably break 2 million today. It's unbelievable. It's the first viral video I've had this summer. And I've gotten so many people saying, oh, you need to check out this channel. You need to check out that channel. This guy restores these guns. Turns out there's a guy in New York State. He's near Rochester, which is about a 4 or 5 hour drive for me. I spoke to them online. He restores these type of rifles, and he said, come, let's take a look at it, and we'll do a little vlog segment. I'm not looking to sell it or restore it any more than I already have, but I just want to get a professional opinion, somebody with extreme street credibility. Yeah. Never would have found them if I didn't put that video out. Yeah. I wouldn't even know who to look for. Like, what do you just Google? I could have Googled, but I probably would have got somebody in Wyoming that I never would have got a chance to actually visit. So
it's like, never say no to an opportunity. Never say no, because no adventure was ever had by saying no and sitting on the sofa and playing PlayStation.
I never played a video game in my life, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Never. I mean, you guys are all probably younger than me. I'm assuming by probably 10 years, and I missed that. I totally went right over my head. Like, when I started seeing young kids playing video games, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, but that's probably going to ruin a bunch of lives. Like, all right, good luck.
You had a different. Your dad was a firefighter, right?
My dad was a New York City firefighter. Yeah, he's just turned 80. My next vlog will have a big segment on my dad. He's out of his fucking mind, my dad. He's a big junk picker. We walked around his pile of junk, and he was showing me all the shit he got. So that'll be in the next vlog. Some funny stuff in
Cool. Look forward to that.
I'm a full-time firefighter myself, and I think
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, I think that the firefighter mentality is different. It's a kind of a get up and go. Let's do stuff. Let's go play with this
Oh,
machine.
like one of my new fast growing closest friends is my friend Mike. I talk about him on Instagram, Left Lane Designs. And Mike, any minute is about to have a baby. Like he may have already had his baby just in these last few hours. He's at the hospital with his wife. And Mike is a New York City fireman. He's young. He's in his 30s, and he like never wants to take a break. He comes to the shop every day. He's like, "What are we doing? What are we moving? What are we putting? Let me pick up something heavy. Let me put it down." And he's amazing. He's got energy, and he's probably 15 years younger than me, but I got to keep up with him whenever he's around. He's like, "What are we doing? Let's move this. He looked at my shop a couple weeks ago, and he goes, "This place is a mess. You know how we could solve that?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Let's take everything out and put it in the parking lot and put it back one at a time." I'm like, "Dude, I got shit to do. I'm not gonna be fucking arrange my whole shop." But talk about that firefighter mentality. Mike is just like never stops. He's unbelievable.
Cool.
Yeah.
The next shark attack is if you have an EDC that you change at times, is it still an EDC or is it an EDDC and every other day carry?
I have a few of them.
Yeah, you have a few, yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a few like every other day. Sometimes I carry a magnifying glass. I happen to have one in my pocket right now, but that's not always. Let's see. Carry magnifying glass in my pocket. Not always. Ruler, I don't carry it as much anymore because when me and Taylor go for a fancy dinner and I have a ruler on my way, she's like, "Could you take that fucking thing off?" So that's an EDDC, whatever he said.
Yeah, I carry a lot of tools around in work, not so much at home in the shed because everything's right beside me. And I remember one day my manager, we were out on a top of the tracks, and he goes, "Fuck, we need a 24 spanner." And he looks at me and he goes, "You don't fucking have one in your pocket, do you?" And I went, "Yeah, 24mm spanner." There you go. He was like, "How the fuck do you have that in your pocket?" But I just happened to have it, you know.
Every once in a while, I use lineman pliers in the shop. Like I have my Leatherman right here. It's sitting next to my computer. But I got like 10 of these. But sometimes I'll use a lineman plier or a pair of snippers, and I'll stick them in my back pocket. And I end up carrying them around for the whole day. Like I'll get to home and me and Taylor be, sitting at dinner, and I'll be like, "What the hell's in my ass?" Because it's sitting in my back pocket. I go to pick because I hadn't sat down all day. And I got a pair of lineman pliers in my back pocket. Those are like the big electrical pliers with the big square nose.
Yeah, no ones. What about you, Nate? Do you have any of every other day carries that you change?
Well, I make everyday carry stuff for a living, so mine changes all the time. I've always got some of my own stuff in my pocket, but I like old tools. So I picked up a King Dick 3-inch wrench this week from eBay because I've got a 4-inch. I wanted a 3-inch because I haven't got one. I got 6-inch, 5-inch. I got pretty much most of the rest of the range, but the 3-inch is like, and I thought I had it in my pocket, but it's not. It's on the side.
It's the one Eric's making, the same size as Eric.
Yeah,
right?
it's the same.
Yeah.
I think Eric's a 4? I don't know.
He's got the tiny one now.
In that case, yeah, the 3-inch.
Yeah.
Man, they're so good. Like the old ones are great. I'd love to get hold of one of Eric's wrenches. They're fantastic.
He's making a bunch in brass at the moment. I think he's going to out any minute.
That really flicks the switch for me. The brass knurled nut, like in his first edition, was like, oh my god, I've got to get one of those. But yeah, I've always got an old tool. I've always got one of my tools, one of my things, and I've always got a penknife. One thing we can carry in the UK is a 3-inch non-locking blade, and that's it. You get nothing else. But there's some great
funny.
great
in
knives.
the UK, like fun. It's funny. Like fun is illegal in the UK.
Yeah.
Fun is illegal. It's
Ireland
properly sucks balls. I grew up. My old man used to take me to France to buy tasers and shit when I was like 14. Came back with a suit of armor, a taser, and a set of nunchucks when I was like. He went to buy me my first flick knife, and I've still got it. I've got my butterfly.
You guys want to? I told this story a few times. I'll tell it again for the people that heard it. I apologize, but when I was in like going back to say like 90, shit, I don't even remember, 93 or 4, I was in Paris and I was on my way to England. And then from England, I was going to Hong Kong. This is when I was heavy in the toy business. I was always in Europe and China. And so I was in France walking around. I was on a trip by myself. I figured I'd take a couple of days in Europe before I ended up in Hong Kong, which was business. So I went to France walking around, and along the river, there was a newsstand. And in the newsstand, the guy had flick knives. He's got like 50 of them. I'm like, you know what? Let me get a bunch of those for my friends at home. So $100 worth of flick knives, which was $20 each. So I got 5, which is a switchblade, we call them essentially. And they're like high quality, non-Italian made shitty ones, but high quality. Like if we got those in America, they would be made in China. You guys get them, they're probably made like in Afghanistan or whatever, and they're much higher quality than what we can get. They're not like stilettos from Italy, which would be hundreds of each. Anyway, I have 5 of these black knives. They're like 8 inches long. Opened up, they're like 12 or 13 inches, 16 inches. They're big ones. And I got 5 of them in a paper bag rolled up in my carry-on. I put them in my carry-on. I get on the plane.
Nice.
In France, go to England. I'm in England for a couple days. I only had a carry-on. I'm carrying my carry-on to British Airways, and there had been some sort of, Irish bomb threat, something going on. Sorry. And so everybody's bag is getting torn apart. To the Irishman, I apologize. Sorry to bring up the bad times. They tear open everybody's bag, and they're like spraying underarm deodorant to make sure nothing's like a false of whatever they think it is. And they go through my bag, and I had zero anticipation that this would be a problem. And she picks up this brown bag, and like the weight of it rolls it flat open, and she opens it, looks and goes, "Oh my dear. What have you got here?" I go, "I don't know, just some souvenirs." And I didn't want to call them knives. I said, "Souvenirs I got from France." She's like, "You brought these into the UK?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "From France?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Do you realize," she talked in my terms. She says, "As an American, these are as illegal as a handgun on an airplane in our country. Do you know that?" I said, "Obviously not. I mean, I wasn't in the slightest bit trying to hide it from you." And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna have to have you speak to a Bobby. I can't make this call because it's so illegal." Anyway, a police officer comes over and he pulls me to the side and he's looking through the bag and he goes, "Well, I see you have no ill will intent. You're just obviously ignorant to the law." And he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I don't want to deal with this shit." He goes, "So I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna put them in a box and put them in the hold of the plane. And then when you get to Hong Kong with them, you deal with it over there. If you want them, keep them. If you don't want them, leave them on the conveyor." I said, "Okay." And I got to Hong Kong, and I was like, Hong Kong's like at the time, and this is 93 or 4. Hong Kong is just like England, and so I was like, forget it. I saw the big British Airways box because they stuck it in like a box that would hold skis.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. It was like a 6-foot box that would like hold some odd shaped thing, and on one end was like 1 pound of knives.
Come and get it, you dumbass. Do you want it? How badly do you want this?
No, I fucking left it. I was like, I'm just going to end up in jail here. So
I did that.
that's my night story. And
I had a Desert Eagle shell.
9/11 happened, and so everything's different now. But go ahead.
Sorry, Jimmy. I had a Desert Eagle shell. I shot a 24-karat gold-plated Desert Eagle in Poland this summer.
Oh, man.
And I had the shell in my carry-on, and the Polish police got me at customs. I thought I was going to get double fucked, mate. I was like, oh my God, please no.
Where's the rest of the rounds that aren't fired, right? That's what they wanted to know?
Just a shell. And he's like, you can't carry that on the plane. I said, Google said I can. And he went, in a room. I was like, oh my. Oh, no. Did I mention I'm sorry? Very sorry. Very sorry.
Keep it. Yeah.
Sure, the customs in Birmingham Airport on the way back from Maker Central took my King Dick spanner off me going on the carry-on on the plane. They wouldn't let me bring a spanner on the plane. Yeah.
No way.
She looked at it and she was like, "What the hell is this?" And I said, "It's an adjustable wrench." And she's like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And I said, "Lady, because it was only the 3-inch one." I said, "I'm not going to be able to disconnect the wing of the fucking plane or something, But no, she wouldn't let me take it. She took it off me. So I was like, "Here, give it to one of the lads." I'm not going to the hassle.
I bought one from I think it's Ben. Ben with the tattoo on his head.
Yeah, that's where I got it. Yeah,
I bought one from him too. It's on my desk.
At least you got to keep yours.
Yeah. Well, I think I put it in my in my pack away luggage. But yeah, no, I said anything in England is like everyone's like bring ice picks, bring ice picks. I'm like I don't want to
Oh
get
my.
30 counts of felony trying to bring something
No.
fun, dangerous through fucking customs. That's why ice picks.
And Ireland is even fucking worse.
Did you answer that one, Johnny? Did you?
What was the question?
About the everyday carries.
Oh, like we were saying, Ireland, everything's illegal. So, like for work, I have an old mid-90s Leatherman Super Tool. So I carry that for work, and I have just a little Gerber, half serrated.
Can you guys carry like Jocko's knife, for instance?
If you have to have you have to have a valid reason for it. So if
No. It locks. You can't take it. It locks. They'll see that as a locking knife, so they'll go no.
What if you just carry the blade? That doesn't lock.
If you say like
We
for the
normally
blade,
tape it to a £2 coin.
Really?
like for a carpet knife, for a Stanley knife, for a carpet knife, if you have to prove grounds to carry it. So if you said I'm a carpet fitter and I have a carpet knife on me, I'm going to work, then you've grounds to carry it. You know?
I could see a Monty Python skit will go, well, I'm a serial killer, and they go, okay, just fill out this paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, off you go.
Move on. Yeah. Like all the official red tape, and no one's paying any attention.
Oh, that's bollocks.
The irony.
Fun-sucking leeches.
Sure, we'll do one more question then, and maybe we'll do a bit of wrapping up stuff. Andy Hugh asks, is your workshop insulated? How is it heated? How do you keep your tools rust free? And which is worse, cold hands or cold feet?
Hands. Cold hands. I have insulation in my big rented barn that I rent. That's the one I'm mostly in. That has insulation. We have two new tube heaters we put in last winter that work really well. I mean, they work good enough. Where it was like today, it was like 19 degrees out, 19 Fahrenheit, and that's below freezing for sure for you guys. And it was totally workable, especially if you keep moving.
Yeah.
And the tube heaters, but the work is generally under the tube heaters. And when you go in the outskirts, it's a little cold, but if you're not doing any extended amount of work there, you'll be okay. And then the barn, the new black barn in the back, we got the heat turned on this year, and it is unbelievable. The doors are like open to the air; they're not insulated, and you go in there, and because it's radiant floor heat, it's so comfortable.
Oh,
It's just something magical about it. So both barns are heated, not super well, but really good enough. And cold hands are the worst. That's like I'd rather have like I could walk around with my feet in ice blocks as long as my hands aren't cold.
Yeah.
Well, for me, my shed is definitely not insulated. Like I'm only working in like an 8x10 shed, and it can get very fucking cold in there. And it's more so my feet that get cold because you're kind of moving your hands if you're standing at a lathe, but you're not really moving your feet all that much. So my feet get really cold when I'm in there for a while. So they actually bug me more than hands. So that's yeah. And to stop everything rusting, everything gets WD-40.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, rust.
Yeah.
The worst part about rust is when you go between the seasons, either where it's like hot and cold every other day, or at night it's cool and the day it's warm. That's when all your steel sweats. You just got to make sure you keep everything sprayed with oil. That's it. It's unavoidable unless it's in a heated room. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a really funny post on Instagram the other day. It's like, my workshop is climate controlled, so my stuff doesn't rust. I'm like, yeah. No, my workshop is insulated, but hell am I going to goddamn heat it just to stop my tools from rusting? Like everyone else does, I'm going to give it a good old squirt of the WD and be done with it. Shut those drawers all filled with oil. And like my lathe, the first thing I did when I got my lathe, I cut a sheet of rag, which I'm going to stick over it all the time, soaked it in oil, and that'll hopefully do the job. But what else can you do? I'm not going to climate control my goddamn workshop. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. You,
What about
you're
you, one,
hotboxing
Johnny?
yourself there, bro. In the car, you're hotboxing yourself. What is that? The car's on fire.
One thing they are
Those
allowed
look
to
like.
do.
That's all.
Wait, those
Nothing to be
you guys are
concerned.
all sucking on those electric pens. They look like
No.
fun. Do you need permits for them?
No, mine's a clutch pencil.
Oh.
Don't give the Irish government any don't give them any ideas, because that'll be the next thing, a permit for a
No,
vape.
you guys, everything you guys fucking do, you got to do with no smiles. You
Yeah.
can't let people know you're having fun, because then a Bobby's gonna come along and say, "Let me see your permit for that."
If they want a permit for my
So
clutch
how do I make it
pencil,
illegal?
We fucked things up a long time ago when we started making a thing called poachine. And when we started making poachine, we totally just we fucked things up for ourselves, you know. It's like
Poachine
it's like moonshine.
made from potatoes.
Yeah.
Moonshine. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Shall we go in and do a few top tips?
Yeah.
top tips.
Okay. Nate, would you like to give us a tip?
I would. And it's been something that I've had an epiphany. It came to me this week when I was trying to squeeze the last drop of toothpaste out of the tube. I was like, I'm wasting my fucking time. And I realised that not only am I wasting my time with my toothpaste, I'm wasting my time with the butter, I'm wasting my time with the glue pot, I'm wasting my time trying to dribble out resin, I'm wasting my time trying to dribble out. Today, I made beeswax polish, trying to get every single goddamn. I'm wasting my time. So what? Chuck it away. Doesn't matter. Leave it.
Right.
Go on to the next thing. Just
Yeah. Start a new tube.
see past it.
Yeah.
Like what?
That's it. You get attached to what's in there, and it. As kids, we've been impounded with the concept of like waste not, want not. So we're like, oh, it's still some shit in there. We can use it. We can use
And I think literally it's been drilled into me like to the nth degree by like 1,000 generations past. Don't waste that fucking toothpaste. It's bullshit. Chuck it away. Get a new one. You can crack on with your day and no one dies. It's fine.
You want to know? I'll give you my tip since you're on a good tip. You're onto a good tip. With my toothpaste tube, and it's usually because I'm too lazy to go have an extra one ready, and it's like the last thing. I lean it on the wall, on the tile wall, and I use the end of my toothbrush as a burnisher, and I burnish it all up towards the opening, and you'll get like 3 more days or 4 more days out of it.
Chuck it away, Jimmy. Just let it go.
No, well, that's in lieu of not having anything to replace. If there's a replacement there, I'll throw away half a tube just to open a fresh new. Believe me. Wait, I got one more tip. If you guys ever use a bottle of glue that is shaped like a toothpaste tube,
Yeah.
like for instance, there's a silicone brand called Goop in America. Maybe do you guys have Goop or E6000? It's like a silicone in a metal tube, just like a tooth where the bottom is like a flat envelope.
Oh yeah.
If you, sometimes you pinch it and too much is coming out, and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to waste it. If you pinch it in the opposite direction, we're all designed to pinch it along the flatness. If you pinch it opposed to that direction just slightly, it'll suck the glue back into the tube. You gotta practice that. Next time. Yeah, when you're out there one day and you're like, fuck, this is a brand new tube. I don't want to shit on the threads. Grab it in that long direction and give it a gentle pinch down at the bottom, and it opens it up and it inhales the paint. It inhales the glue.
That is a good tip. But we are talking about a pea.
That always happens to me because we have these metal markers in work and they're in a metal tube and you'll always end up squeezing out too much. So I'll use that next time. That's a good tip.
Well, here, it's one of these. So like for instance,
how about you, Johnny? Have you got a tip?
Yeah. Jimmy carries all this stuff in his pockets. Jesus Christ.
This is,
what else you got in there? Come on, empty him out. Let's have a look. It's just picked out a bunch of glue.
Fancy pants that he's been wearing lately.
There's his toothbrush.
That's I'm in my kitchen. I'm sitting on my junk drawers.
Hang on, I'm gonna go get some crap. Hang on, wait there.
Hold on, this isn't my fancy pants.
Not really.
All right, go ahead. I'm done.
Go.
Johnny, do you have a top tip this week?
My tip is if you're trying to collect up metal shavings, or if you want to pick up, if you spill your screws or your nails or any shit like that, if you get a magnet, turn a plastic bag inside out, put the magnet in the bag, let all your metal shit stick to the magnet, and then you turn the bag the right way around, and you've got all your shit inside in your plastic bag. So
That's a good one. I never thought to use a bag. I've used a rag before, but a bag is a very good idea.
Jimmy, you could just use your new knife.
That's right. It's magnetic.
Did you figure that out, by the way?
A few people told me, look at this one.
Why?
I got a
What
pair
happened,
of fingernail
though?
snippers that happens to be sitting here. Somebody told me that, and it's funny. Tanda Madison, she's a machinist online. She said
awesome.
she hadn't seen the video of how I made it yet, but she said, "Did you hit the end repeatedly?" I was like, "Yeah, I peened over the end to hold the nugget on." She said that will somehow charge it into magnetism. So there was a couple of answers, all basically like if you do something repetitive to the metal in the same direction, it'll cause it to magnetize. Never knew that.
When I made this because I make knives, and knives are fucking ridiculously hard to photograph. So I made a magnetic knife holder, and what it is it's a big magnet in a base, in a wooden base, a copper pipe, another piece of wood on top with a magnet stuck in it, and you can move it up and down depending on the length of the knife. And what it does is the knife almost hovers in between the two pieces. But what it does do is it fucking magnetizes your knife.
While it's sitting there.
Yeah, while it's sitting there. So I didn't realize that, and then next thing, all my knives are starting to pick up all the fucking metal dust around the workshop. But a lot of guys said to me, you can demagnetize them then after, if you want. Right. So.
Yeah, I think if you rub them with the opposite pole to whatever pole it's magnetized to, it'll demagnetize. Yeah. My tip this week is if you're stripping it in bigger parts and maybe it's something that you haven't done before and you're worried there's so many nuts and bolts and where everything's going to go back, if you get like a cardboard box and you can cut like little slits in it and just pop the nuts or the bolts into the cardboard, and you can draw on the cardboard what part of the machine or whatever it is you're working on came off. It's something that we used to do when we were stripping down engines and stuff. I used to work down the docks, and we might an engine apart, and you might want to put all the rods in or something like that and have them in the order that came out. So you can put them in into the cardboard box and just number them, and then you know exactly where everything goes when you're putting everything back. So it's just a handy little tip if you're stripping down something.
Yeah, good tip. Mm-hmm.
Oh, now with iPhones, photograph shit on my way out of it. Like if I'm taking it, make sure you photograph stuff on the way.
Yeah.
By the way, since we talked about Eric, I asked Eric how his channel got started when we became friends, and he says, "Well, I used to take complicated shit apart, so I would film it." He goes, "And some of the videos were just him publishing that, taking shit apart and putting it back together, so he could remember how he did it."
Yeah, it's funny how technology has come on to allow us to do stuff like that,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Mad. Do you want to do rants? I want to have a rant on it. Yeah, we got rants.
I've got a hell of a one. I've got a moan. Got a right moan.
Well, then you may as well go, Nate.
Right, okay, well, here we go. I'm going to try and keep this brief. About a year ago, I did a deal with somebody who contacted me on Instagram. He goes, I'm a local guy. I do beekeeping, and I've got beeswax. Would you like some? I was like, hell yeah, I want some beeswax. And he said, great, I love your stuff. We can do a swap. And I thought that was a great idea. So I went over and picked up some beeswax. He didn't quite know what he wanted. So he went away and said, I'll have to think about it. And he sent me a message saying, what are you going to do? So, well, I'm going to make polish. So he goes, great, I'll have 20% of whatever you make. I went, what? He goes, yeah, I'll just take 20% of whatever you make. I said, well, like bollocks for you. I was going to give you a cheese knife or something. And this went on for like a year and a half. And I've had this 2 kilograms of beeswax sitting there, wasting away, going, oh, God. I really want to make something with it. I bumped into him recently. I said, hey, mate, what's that beeswax worth? And I was on a craft fair, and he goes, about 20 quid. I went, well, there you go then. He goes, hang on a minute. Let me have a look at your stall. I went, no, get fucked. You're not having a look at my stall. You can take the 20 quid, or you can have nothing. And he didn't like it, but he did. He took the 20 quid, and he fucked off. But don't change a deal halfway through. Jesus Christ. And certainly don't give me any crap about it on Instagram. Block me like some sort of jackass. Like,
At least you know he's not going to be listening.
I hope he is. He's blocked me on Instagram and I can't tell him.
Well, fuck it. That's why you got to be careful whenever you enter into a deal with somebody. You got to, recently a friend of mine, he developed a friendship with a few people on social media, and he kind of invested too much emotional energy into it, and then he kind of got let down. I'll keep it vague, and it wasn't any romance or anything. It was just a friendship, and he got a little let down because his expectations weren't met. And I was like, no offense to you guys, we just met online, but you meet people online, you don't want to rush into it too quick, or you want to keep it on the topic how you met, at least for a while, until you start getting into some deeper friendship. Anyway, he got a little let down too quick, and so talking about the same thing, don't rush into a deal too quickly with somebody that you don't know that well, because you just end up expectations aren't met, or unrealistic expectations are set, and it's almost like you're too far apart to be able to say, whoa, bro, that's fucking weird. You go, okay. What I was going to suggest is when shit gets super weird like that, if the guy goes, oh, give me 20% or whatever you make, you go, okay, great, and just never fucking sell anything and never talk to him again. And
it's okay, Jimmy. I wasn't going to rush. We can take it slow.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm gentle.
Thank God for that.
I'm fragile, I have to say. Joke. Fragile. I said gentle. It sounded fucking perverted. I didn't mean to say that.
I'll read you, man.
Oh, fuck it. We broke Jimmy DeResta.
Just this podcast.
Oh, fuck.
I will not apologise.
Now, John, you got a rant for us.
Me? I do. You know what my rant is? Assholes. You know the guys that turn around, they ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Well, they actually don't want your fucking opinion. What they want to do is to tell you what the answer is. So they'll turn around and they'll say, so what's the best way to do this? And then you answer them, they go, no, you're wrong. This is the best way to do it. They're fucking assholes. Assholes. They're just looking for fucking attention at the end of the day. That's all they're doing, I don't have fucking time to be
Really
playing with these people. Total cockwombles. Anyway. Fucking.
I might have a rant.
Oh, go for
on.
it, Jimmy.
Oh, yes, please.
I think it's these it's trolls. It's fucking trolls. I did this gun restoration, and every other fucking scumbag is like, I wouldn't have done that. You didn't blew it. You didn't this. You didn't that. It's one fucking gun that I saved from going into the scrap heap. It's one stupid piece of tool or equipment that otherwise was sitting unnoticed at this farmhouse I bought. And people they come into it with too serious a sense of, if they saw where I got it, when I got it, they would have a certain sense of like, oh wow, that's really cool that it's no longer a piece of shit. Instead of, you did this wrong, you did that. Oh, you put a wire wheel to it, you destroyed it. I didn't fucking destroy it. It didn't work, now it works. Explain that. Now I'm a fucking in the court of law. Okay, did the gun work when you started playing with it? No. Does it work when you're done with it? Yes. Everything in between, go fuck yourself. It didn't work, now it works.
You know what? We were discussing this recently, right? And I don't understand how people's opinion and their mentality, especially with YouTube, if Jimmy DeResta turns around and puts up a video, right? That's for our entertainment. That's to show what he's doing, to make something to entertain, that you're doing it to entertain me. Where is my mentality then to come out and go, you're doing that wrong? I don't get where people actually came around to this mentality that they can turn around and inform the person that's entertaining them that they're wrong in what they're doing, or they should have done it another way, or it's fucking hard.
And it's funny. I said it on my podcast a couple weeks ago, Bob and Dave. When it comes to making knives, real knife makers will give you information in a gentle, loving, caring, hey, let's share this craft way. Yeah. Assholes who are amateurs will be like, that's not how you fucking do it. You hardened it wrong. Now it's not going to work. You didn't temper it. You didn't. Yeah. Those are fucking amateurs. And the same thing with this gun community. All the fucking know-it-alls are just getting started. All the pros don't say anything.
Yeah.
people are introducing me to the pros by saying, "Oh, that's not how fucking Johnny Smith would have done it." So I go and look at Johnny Smith's channel, and I'm like, "Oh wow, this guy's a total pro."
Yeah.
But he's not going to come to my channel and go, "You did it wrong, you fucking idiot." That's why if you see the top pinned comment on that video, I was like, "Hey, every asshole that thinks they know it all started somewhere, and just consider this me starting somewhere, and stop being so critical." So.
But, I mean, that's like if I cut up a cymbal or something like that, and all the musicians come in and go, "Oh my god, that's sacrilege! You can't cut up a cymbal. Like it's cracked, it's keyholed, it's knackered. It's
Right.
going to the scrap. I'm going to cut the cymbal up, use the bronze, and do something great
Yep.
with it. You know, like
Yep.
otherwise it's a piece of shite. Like what good is it?
You should do like a slow-mo video of you cutting up fucking half dozen of them just to fucking really annoy him.
That's what I do. That's why I cut them all up all over Instagram because everyone fucking moans about it. Like, I'm going to do a saxophone next. They're going to write shit.
I've always wanted to get like an American gun, because you guys know what kind of babies we are when it comes to guns. I wanted to get like a cool classic gun and stick it in the forge and then just crush it under the hydraulic press.
Make some Damascus out of it.
Yeah, turn it into something.
Damascus.
Yeah, gun mascus. That's it. You just coined that term. You should start the gun mascus channel. Yeah, people could tolerate watching me like kill a baby elephant, probably with a hammer, more than watching me like hydraulic press a fucking classic American gun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I expect that to be your next YouTube video.
Yeah, mascus.
No, the elephant.
Oh, the elephant thing. No, we love animals too.
Oh, superb.
My rant seems rather meager to all those ones. It's actually a bit of shite talk because it's about the toilet. The toilet seat broke. The hinge on it broke, okay? And we needed a new one because, like us men are okay, we can stand up, but for the ladies, no. Especially in the middle of the night when it's dark. So I marched up to B&Q. It's a hardware store here, and marched up to B&Q where I had originally bought the toilet seat. There's nothing wrong with the toilet seat. It's just the hinge. It's one little hinge. You think they sell hinges? No. You have to buy the whole fucking seat. You have to buy the whole fucking seat for one little fucking hinge. And personally, I would have got a bit of threaded bar, stuck it in, bent it, and put it there, but no, I had to get a proper seat. So yeah, I had to fork out 20 quid.
You can make a duct tape hinge,
Yeah,
you can cast it in resin. You can do duct tape toilet seat. Cast in resin.
The only thing is, right?
I have a spare seat now and one spare hinge. That's okay.
I will say, right? Have you ever sat in a toilet without a seat?
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good.
I might have.
So I can see where the girls are coming from with that one.
There's always a plank, a 2x4. You could use like a 2x4, on the front and back.
Or just hover. Just hover.
I'm just asking. Has anybody ever done an epoxy river table toilet seat? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Oh no, get fucked. No.
Yeah. Heath Knuckles did one. He did an epoxy. He did an epoxy toilet seat.
Yeah, he's
the
good.
most beautiful toilet seat I've ever seen. It's fantastic. Yeah, I remember.
It looks like a little majestic universe inside.
Yeah.
Have you seen that guy's fucking hair?
He did great hair.
Seriously, his hair is amazing.
He's got great hair.
He's got great hair.
Right. One last item of business is our shout outs for this week. Who have we been looking at? Nate?
Easy peasy. Reclaimed. At Reclaimed on Instagram. He is a furniture designer, carver, sculptor, he takes live edge timber, natural materials, and couples it with very industrial aspects. Like he'll carve a heart and stick a steel bolt through it like an arrow. He is badass things. Go and check him out. He's awesome.
Cool. Sounds good. Johnny?
My shout out is where the fuck did I write? Oh yeah, is awesome in progress. So that's awesome_in_progress. That's Terrier. Terrier Smith's dad. So he's a Viking. I presume you met him at Maker Central, Al, did you? You did as well, Nate. He's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
fucking 20 foot tall. You probably met him as well, Jimmy, at
Who? Sorry, I was reading something.
Awesome in Progress. Terrier Smith's dad. He's about fucking 7 foot tall. He's a Viking. He's huge
I probably
with a
did
beard.
then.
But Terrier is doing an awful lot of carving lately. Carving little miniature figures and painting them up, and they're fucking amazing.
They're deadly,
Absolutely amazing. The character that he can get on these little 6-inch figures is fucking mind blowing. It's ridiculous. But outside of that, he's a huge supporter of the maker community. He's a really good guy. And
What's his Instagram? I want to follow him again.
Awesome in Progress.
Oh yeah, I follow him.
Yeah, he's extremely talented, really good guy. So
Yeah, I love his figurines, his little
Yeah.
sculpts. Cool.
Very
They're like
cool.
folk art stuff.
yeah, very
Cool.
talented, very cool.
My shout out goes to one of our listeners and one of our local listeners, N.I. Woodworking. He made this cool little keyring plane in a Japanese style there during the week. I put a picture up on Instagram and it looked sweet. He's going to kind of, I think, make a few of them and try and sell a few of them. So go and check out his page. He's got some cool stuff on it,
Yeah.
and he's a great
He's
follower
nice,
here of
he's a nice
us.
guy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet little planes.
Jimmy, have you got anyone you want to shout out?
Well, I'm just gonna pop open my Instagram and see if anybody's cool. Oh, George made this. That's who I was thinking of before. George made this.
He's had a shout out before, Jimmy. You have to do another one.
Yeah. No. So he was who I was talking
George
about.
is excellent.
Yeah, George is great. They're talking about when we were on the printing stuff. Let's see. I don't. Oh my! Now I'm getting paranoid. I'm getting nervous. So there's another George made this.
I don't mean don't shout George out. I like talk about George. He's awesome.
George. Oh, you guys want to follow somebody? My buddy's always doing wacky things on his farmhouse. Lost Skills on Instagram. He's a guy. It's at Lost Skills.
Cool.
He does all kinds of farming stuff. He's my buddy who I bought my tractor from, Sam. I bought he found me my tractor in Pennsylvania. Check him out. I'm just going through quick. I'll give you one or two more. Oh, my buddy Robert E. Lee in Ohio. Check out Robert Lee. He's great. He's an older gentleman, retired, making stuff in his basement. He's an awesome dude.
Don?
You guys know Garage Avenger?
Yeah. I was on his podcast. What?
Is he in Europe or is he in America? Where is he?
He's in Norway.
Yeah.
He is, right? I knew he wasn't American. Something about him, I think he was American.
He's Australian.
He's Australian,
so
yeah.
He flips between the two.
There you go. I'll give you one more. Actually, if you guys want to be inspired, check out my buddy Jay Rivera. His Instagram is JAERIVERA360. Jay is over 300 pounds, and he just ran the New York City Marathon. He said he was one of like 4 guys over 300 pounds that ran the marathon. That's out of like tens of thousands of people. And he is training to run a 36-mile marathon. Then he's training to run an 80-mile marathon. He's been my personal inspiration. When I first met Jay, he was like 400 pounds. And he was like changing his life, and he found me on YouTube, and we met, and he was just so sweet, and we became close friends. And lately he's on this whole kick where he wants to get healthy, and he's jogging, and he's working with Nike to get healthy. So if you need just some personal inspiration, some motivational inspiration, check out Jay. Tell him I sent you. So that's enough.
Nice.
Good. Excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good shout. Right, so I think I speak for all of us when Jimmy, we say thank you very much for coming and having a chat with us. It's been
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Great time, guys. Thank you.
And thanks for making time for us. And so where can everybody be found, Johnny?
Bespoke Block Designs, Instagram, Facebook, and irishcustomknives.com if anybody wants to buy a knife.
Okay, Nate?
Simply Ornate on Instagram, and website is literally like 2 weeks away, and simplyornate.com. So I will see you on the gram, basically. Don't message me on Facebook because I don't look at it.
Jimmy can be found everywhere.
Just
My name,
Jimmy
my name-
DeResta, yeah.
Jimmy DeResta everywhere. At this, in that, over that, at Jimmy DeResta.
And I'm Wood Touring by Alan Scannell on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all them socials. And you can find us as a group on Make Your Own Way podcast on Instagram and on Facebook.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in this week, everybody, guys. And been a great chat.
Great
Thanks,
chat,
guys.
guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
We're not going
man.
to hang up, are we?
No.
We could shit
nah.
talk a few people after.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be
of course,
fun.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
I've got a list, so let's do this.
We'll add it in the after show.
And the fuckery never ends.